I was 16 when my world collapsed. It started as whispers, then snowballed into a storm I couldn't stop. My older sister, Lisa, had always been the golden child, straight-A student, varsity athlete, and my parents' pride. Me? I was just there. I wasn't a troublemaker, but I wasn't exceptional either. Then, out of nowhere, she started spreading rumors about me. At first, they were small lies, things like skipping school or sneaking out at night. But then she escalated. She told my parents I was stealing money from them, that I was doing drugs, that I had been caught shoplifting. None of it was true, but she was so convincing. And they believed her. I remember the night it all came crashing down. I came home from my part-time job at the gas station to find my dad waiting by the door, arms crossed, his face red with anger. My mom stood behind him, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding something in. "You think we're stupid, huh?" my dad growled. "Lying, stealing, acting like you can do whatever you want under my roof?" I was stunned. "What are you talking about?" Lisa stood in the hallway smirking. She didn't even have to say anything. That was the night they kicked me out. I stood on the front porch, my backpack slung over one shoulder, my breath coming out in quick, panicked gasps. The cold night air bit at my skin, but the shock of it all numbed me more than the wind ever could. The door slammed behind me. I turned back, half expecting my mom to rush out and say it was a mistake, that they just needed time to cool down. But the house remained silent. The only sound was the distant hum of cars from the main road. I had nowhere to go. No plan. No money. I fished my phone out of my pocket, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through my contacts. I had a few friends from school, but how do you ask someone, "Hey, can I sleep on your couch indefinitely because my family thinks I'm a criminal?" I called the only person I could think of, my best friend, Jordan. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Hello?" His voice was groggy. I had woken him up. "Jordan," my voice cracked. "I need help." A pause. Then, "Where are you?" I exhaled, tears stinging my eyes. "Home." "Well, not anymore." "Stay there. I'm coming." I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew one thing: this was the start of something I could never undo. I sat on the curb outside my house, hugging my knees to my chest. Every few minutes, I glanced back at the front door, half hoping it would swing open and my mom would come running out, telling me they'd made a mistake. But the house remained dark, silent. 15 minutes later, headlights cut through the night. Jordan's beat-up Honda rolled to a stop in front of me. The passenger window slid down and his tired face peered out. "Dude," he said, rubbing his eyes. "What the hell happened?" I let out a shaky breath. "Lisa. She lied about me. My parents believed her. They kicked me out." Jordan cursed under his breath and unlocked the door. "Get in." I hesitated for half a second before throwing my bag in and climbing inside. As soon as I shut the door, it hit me: I really had nowhere to go. "You can stay at my place," Jordan said, reading my mind. "My mom's cool. We'll figure something out." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Jordan pulled away from the curb and I stole one last glance at the house I had grown up in. It felt unreal, like I had walked out of one life and into another. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning of my fight to survive. Jordan's house was small but warm, the kind of place that always smelled like coffee and cinnamon. His mom, Mrs. Patel, was sitting at the kitchen table in her robe when we walked in. She glanced up from her book, her eyes flicking between me and Jordan. "What's going on?" she asked, setting down her mug. Jordan scratched the back of his head. Matt needs a place to crash." His parents, he hesitated, then sighed. "They kicked him out." Her eyebrows knitted together. "Kicked out?" She looked at me now, concern clear in her gaze. "Why?" I swallowed hard. "They think I did things I didn't do." My voice was barely above a whisper. Mrs. Patel studied me for a moment, then let out a deep sigh. "Well, you're not sleeping on the street. The couch is yours for as long as you need." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you," I murmured. Jordan clapped me on the back. "Told you. My mom's cool." I forced a small smile, but inside I felt like a burden. I didn't want to be a charity case. I didn't want to be pitted. I just wanted my life back. As I settled onto the couch that night, staring up at the ceiling, a thought crept into my mind. I had lost everything. But maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and something frying in the kitchen. For a brief second, I forgot where I was. Then the ache in my chest returned. I wasn't home. I didn't have a home. I sat up, rubbing my face, when Mrs. Patel walked in, holding a plate of eggs and toast. "Eat," she said simply, setting it down on the coffee table. I hesitated. Don't start," she interrupted, crossing her arms. "You're a guest, not a burden. Just eat." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thank you." As I ate, Jordan plopped down next to me, stretching. So, he said, "What's the plan?" I stared at my plate. Plan? I hadn't thought that far ahead. I guess I sighed. I need a place to stay long-term. A job. Something to get me back on my feet. Jordan nodded. Well, you already got a part-time job at the gas station, right? Maybe they can give you more hours. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Mrs. Patel chimed in. You can stay here for now, but you should also think about school. You're still a minor. You need to graduate. School. Right? As if balancing school, work, and being homeless wasn't going to be impossible. But what choice did I have? I set down my fork, my mind racing. I was on my own now. If I wanted a future, I had to fight for it. And I would. That afternoon, I went straight to the gas station where I worked part-time. It was a small place, dingy floors, flickering lights, and the smell of stale coffee that never quite left. I usually worked weekends, but now I needed every shift I could get. My manager, Rick, was a grumpy guy in his 50s who always smelled like cigarettes. When I walked in, he barely looked up from his newspaper. You're not scheduled today, kid. I know, I said. I need more hours. As many as you can give me. Rick finally looked at me, squinting. What's the deal? I hesitated. I didn't want to spill my whole life story, but I also needed him to take me seriously. I don't have a place to stay right now. I need to save up. Something in his expression shifted just a little. He didn't say anything for a few moments, then grunted. All right, extra shifts start tomorrow. You're working late nights too. It wasn't ideal, but I wasn't in a position to complain. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Rick waved me off. Don't thank me. Just show up on time and don't screw around. As I left the gas station, the weight of reality settled on me. This was my life now, school during the day, work at night, crashing on Jordan's couch in between. It wasn't sustainable. But for now, it was all I had. And I wasn't going to let myself fail. The first week of my new routine nearly broke me. I woke up early for school, trying to act like everything was fine while running on barely any sleep. I worked late shifts at the gas station, dragging myself back to Jordan's place at midnight, exhausted and sore. Homework? Forget it. I barely had the energy to eat. Mrs. Patel noticed. She didn't say anything outright, but every morning there was extra food packed in my bag. Jordan covered for me in class when teachers asked why I looked half dead. But I could feel the cracks forming. I was running on fumes, and it was only a matter of time before I crashed. The first ray I'll hit came at school. It was lunchtime when Lisa found me. I was in the cafeteria, sitting with Jordan, minding my own business when she slid into the seat across from me, a fake sweet smile on her face. Well, she said, folding her hands. How's the homeless life treating you? Jordan stiffened beside me. I clenched my jaw. What do you want, Lisa? She leaned in. Mom and Dad are so disappointed. They really thought you'd come crawling back by now. I felt my grip tighten on my fork. Not happening. Lisa's smirk deepened. You don't get it, do you? You're nothing without us. You think your little gas station job is gonna save you? You'll come back. And when you do, it'll be worse. She stood up, brushing imaginary dust off her shirt. See you around, loser. As she walked away, Jordan muttered, what a psycho. I exhaled sharply. Lisa was wrong. I wasn't going back. But her words stuck with me, digging into old wounds. I had to prove her wrong. No matter what. Lisa's words rattled around in my head for days. No matter how much I told myself I didn't care, a tiny voice kept whispering, what if she's right? My exhaustion got worse. School felt like a blur. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. At work, I was moving slower, messing up orders, barely staying awake during shifts. Even Jordan started looking at me with worry. The crash finally came one night at the gas station. It was nearly 2 a.m. and I was restocking the fridge when my vision blurred. My legs felt weak. I grabbed the shelf for balance, but the room started spinning. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor. Someone was shaking me. Kid. Hey kid, wake up. My eyes fluttered open and I saw Rick kneeling next to me, his cigarette dangling from his mouth. What the hell's wrong with you? He grumbled, but for the first time, his voice wasn't just annoyed, it was concerned. I sat up slowly, my head pounding. Just tired, I mumbled. Rick narrowed his eyes. You look like death. When's the last time you ate? I shrugged. He sighed, standing up. Come on. I followed him to the back, where he handed me a half-eaten sandwich from the break room fridge. Eat this, and don't pass out in my damn store again. Rick leaned against the counter, watching me. Look, kid, I don't know what your deal is, but you're burning out. You keep this up, you're gonna end up in the hospital. Or worse. I swallowed hard, his words hitting me like a punch. He was right. I couldn't keep going like this. Something had to change. Rick's words lingered in my head for days. You're burning out. I knew he was right, but I didn't know what to do about it. I had no safety net. No one to catch me if I fell. It was Wednesday when I hit my breaking point. I had just come home from my first class of the day, barely awake, and I found Jordan sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his phone. Mrs. Patel was at work, leaving us alone for a few hours. You look like hell, Jordan said without looking up, a touch of concern in his voice. I rubbed my face, sitting down next to him. I'm fine. He shot me a look. You're not fine, Matt. You're working yourself into the ground. I sighed, slumping forward. I don't know what else to do, man. I can't go back to my parents. I can't just sit here while my life falls apart. I need the money and I need the hours. I don't have a choice. Jordan shook his head. You do have a choice. You just don't want to make it. I frowned. What do you mean? You're trying to do everything at once. School, work, staying here. You need help, Matt. It's okay to ask for it. I stared at him, feeling a mix of frustration and shame. I don't want to be a burden. You've already done enough for me. He exhaled sharply, his tone softer now. We're friends, dude. That's what friends do. But you can't keep pushing yourself this hard. You're not gonna make it, not like this. I clenched my fists, the weight of it all crashing over me. He was right. I couldn't keep going down this path. I don't know how to ask for help, I admitted quietly. Jordan gave me a small, understanding smile. That's the first step, man. Asking. Felt like a weight had shifted. I had to do something different or I was gonna lose everything. So, I made the hardest decision of my life. I called my mom. I stood in the hallway of Jordan's house, staring at my phone for what felt like an eternity. My hand shook as I hovered over my mom's number. This was it. I had no idea how she'd react. After everything that happened, I didn't know if she'd even want to talk to me, let alone help. But if I didn't do this, I was going to collapse. I took a deep breath and pressed the call button. It rang. Once, twice, and then she picked up. Hello. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. Mom, I said, my throat tightening. There was a long pause before she spoke again. Matt, is that you? Yeah, it's me. I swallowed hard. I need to talk to you. I need help. I heard her breath catch on the other end. What's going on? Are you okay? Not really, I admitted. I'm staying with Jordan right now. I'm working, going to school, but I'm not making it. I can't keep up and I'm burning out. I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for things to go this way. There was silence on the other end. I don't know what to say, she said quietly. Your dad and we thought you'd come back on your own. But we were wrong, Matt. We shouldn't have believed those lies. Her voice cracked, and I felt my heart sink. I was just so angry, she continued. But I should have known. I should have known better. I clenched my fists, trying to hold back the tears. It's okay. I don't want to blame you. I need help, Mom. I can't do this alone anymore. A long silence followed. Then finally she spoke again. I'm sorry. I was too harsh. We can't undo what's been done, but we can try to make it right. If you're willing, Matt, come home. We'll figure it out together. My chest tightened. For the first time in months, I felt like a weight was being lifted off me. I'll come back, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. But things have to be different this time. I need you to trust me. I will. I promise. And just like that, I took the first step toward rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy to walk back through the front door of my house. When I pulled up to the driveway later that afternoon, my heart was pounding in my chest. I hadn't been home in weeks. The house was eerily quiet when I stepped inside, like everything had been frozen in time. The smell of old wood and furniture filled the air, but something felt different. Mom was sitting on the couch when I walked in, and I could see the worry and exhaustion in her eyes. She stood up slowly, as if unsure of how to approach me. I stood in the doorway, unsure of what to do, what to say. Felt like we were strangers, and that hurt more than anything else. Finally, she reached out her arms. Come here, Matt. I hesitated for a moment, then walked into her embrace. I didn't know how to explain it, but I felt a rush of relief, like I was finally home after a long journey. "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I messed up. I should have never let it get this far." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "No, it's me who's sorry. I shouldn't have believed the lies. I should have trusted you more. I didn't see the bigger picture. You were going through so much, and I failed you." I shook my head. "We both messed up, but we're here now." And for the first time in a long while, I felt like we could start over. Mom sat me down at the kitchen table and we talked for hours about everything. About the lies Lisa spread. About my struggle to survive on my own. About how we'd all gone wrong and how maybe we could get things right this time. By the end of the evening, things were still uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like there was a chance for healing.